mamas. I'm licensed marriage and family therapist Evie Empress, and today I'm answering listener questions, and I will be for the next several weeks in each episode. So the topic today is fighting about who's getting up at bed with baby and toddler. And even if this is not something that you're currently struggling with, something in the answer will likely relate to your relationship dynamic or struggles that you face with your partner, even if you're in a different stage. Okay, so I'm going to read out today's question from Amy T. My husband and I keep fighting over who gets up with the baby more. When one of us starts feeling like they're doing it way more, we try to talk about it and it becomes a huge fight. The discussions don't go anywhere. Any advice? Okay. So first of all, thanks, Amy, for your question. This is a pretty common fight. It's not only a common fight, but a common dynamic about division of labor involved in parenting and the care, starting to become a tit for tat. Who did what? A competition. Okay. And getting to a point of keeping score and getting on opposing teams here, which is, look, being on opposing teams is going to be a position that's just going to keep fueling like negative narratives about each other and negative outlook on each other. And it does keep you in a dead end place. That is not a place where you're going to get a new experience of a conversation that's going to be helpful. I'm certainly not saying that there shouldn't be anger or that there isn't some kind of protest that needs to be met, but the way these conversations play out really matters, the how, okay? I am going to get to concrete negotiating tips at the end and tips about sharing this kind of labor. But first, it's really important that we help you get to a place where you're both regulated and coming at this discussion on the same side. And I know that that's not easy, okay? Because when it gets this way, and when you're starting to fight about either things like who's waking up enough at bedtime or any kind of labor issue or responsibility issue in the home, it's about more than who's doing what. Okay. It's about, am I in this alone? It's about, do you see how hard I'm working? Can you acknowledge or appreciate what I'm doing when it's hard, right? So there's underlying needs and longings that are just more than a negotiation of division. All right. So some examples that I hear from moms and partners often are, again, wanting to be seen for the struggle. Okay. Can you see how exhausted I am? Do you care? When you see this, is it just something you're ignoring? Like, I want you to acknowledge this. Okay. And even if that's not articulated to yourself, often sometimes when we spend time uncovering what's the underbelly of this protest in your heart, that's often something that comes up is it's a pretty profound need to want to be acknowledged, appreciated, seen, cared about, right? And obviously with this example, the strain of being up at night a lot is it's brutal. Okay. I'm not even just going to say hard. It's brutal. Okay. It really affects everything. You don't have as much energy. It actually can make you feel pretty down. And then you have this, next day to get up from whatever little sleep you got and be available either for your kid or work or both in the house. It's brutal. So this is an example of something where you want someone to recognize what you're doing, right? And then are we in this together? Is this like, are we on each other's side even? Like, are we trying to look at this from a, how do we deal with this? Or is this just like on me, right? On me or on you, and it doesn't feel that there's a collaboration or like teamwork in this. So both of you likely want to be seen and acknowledged and cared for and feeling like less lonely in this. Okay. So that's often the underbelly of what is the protest? What is the anger around this? What is the unmet longing? Okay. And you want to watch out for a cycle you might get locked into where when you share this in a certain way, your partner perceives it as an attack and gets defensive. And then their defensiveness is going to make you feel like, hey, it's going to signal to you that they're just resisting accountability and they don't want to be on your side. They don't want to understand. And then that's just going to keep fueling. If you imagine like an infinity loop, like a figure eight, that it's going to keep that dynamic going. It's almost like adversarial. It's just an adversarial approach to each other instead of curiosity, instead of, hey, can we actually compare notes here and see what's going on? Okay. Instead of trying to make space for both of your difficult experiences or how you're experiencing each other. So it's basically stepping out of a dynamic that's really not getting you anywhere in these discussions, because I hear you saying that it's just a dead end loop, which is really common and it's not productive. And so you need to step out of a tit for tat kind of approach and start meeting the under the surface actual emotional hunger that is going to get you out of the dead end conversation loop into a place of acknowledgement, being seen, which helps with regulation to actually be able to navigate something like the Wakeups and sharing the responsibility there. And that's why I'm not getting to the nitty gritty how to negotiate this yet, because first we have to help you get to a place where you're even approaching the conversation and approaching each other differently. And part of that is being aware, hey, both of us, may be contributing to this, where the way we're expressing it is in a attacky, judgy way because we've been repressing, and it comes out sideways. It comes out punchy. And, partner may need to realize, hey, I'm getting defensive super fast and avoiding actually being present for what my spouse or partner is trying to tell me. Okay, so how can you both do this, right? How can you both listen to each other and also make space for, your own authentic sharing? Again, I'm not telling you to dismiss any anger, but how you have the conversation, how you express your anger matters. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to get to a better place. This is good to listen to with your spouse. So first of all, timing. Okay. The middle of the night is not the time for a discussion. I'm not saying you can't tag team at night or say, hey, I can't even keep my eyes open. Can you help out? That's not what I mean, but actually getting into a discussion, a productive discussion about what's going on here where this doesn't feel balanced, or it's like we're on opposing teams over this, or like we're competing about who does what. That kind of conversation is going to require a moment that you have had some rest, that has some quiet, that you've been able to a little bit to decompress from the day. And I know that in early childhood, it's hard to find times like that, but it is necessary. Otherwise, if you're frazzled, or one of you or both of you is frazzled, it's just harder to be able to get regulated. Okay. So consider timing, and even team up with your spouse or partner. Say, hey, let's both work together to come up with a time to talk about some stuff. Cause I want, and for the invitation, not to be I want to talk to you, I want to tell you up, but an invitation to say so this can be easier for both of us, right? To be an invitation that's welcoming, that's non-threatening, and it's really inviting actually something that will feel good to both of you. The next thing is regulation. This is a hard one. It's hard sometimes when things are very triggering, or there's been a backlog of anger about something for a long time, to be regulated. But it is important. You're going to have to be in a space where, okay, I'm going to choose here to take some deep breaths, to not make assumptions really quick, to not fire back really quick, and really try to listen and consider. And just try to if I need a pause, if I need to take some breaths, if we need to take a time out and come back to the conversation, that's fine. It's better to wait and take breaks and take some breathers and then come back than just to steamroll through a conversation if you're noticing that you're just really reactive and combative. That's a sign that you're not in a regulated space. Okay. So if either of you or both of you are really shutting down, lashing out, slamming doors, whatever it is, you're not regulated. You're going to have to take a break and come back. Okay. Keep in mind the difference. I remember learning about this in health class when I was a teenager, and it always stuck with me. It's so true. The difference between aggressive and assertive. So assertive is good, right? Assertive is, hey, we are connected with and clear about what we want to express, and we communicate it directly, right? There's, nothing helpful about beating around the bush or pretending or shoving things under the rug. No, to be assertive and direct is good. Aggressive is something else. Okay. So again, we can be very direct and authentic and assertive without being aggressive. And what's the difference? Aggressive is when something is accusatory, hostile. Tone of voice matters, right? We could even be saying something like, we need to talk about this, or we need to talk about this. right? Do you feel the difference in your body as in those different tones of voice that I just had, right? So tone of voice, our body posture, all of that. It's not just the words that are coming out of our mouth. It's really the tone and tenor of our body language, of our voice, of our eyes. Okay. So again, yes, express authentically. I'm never going to be someone who's going to say, well, try to moderate, what you're saying and maybe choose all these different words. No, I think it's okay sometimes many times to be very clear and authentic in your expression, but aggressive is something different, and aggressive is not going to help. Okay. Both of you need to feel comfortable, emotionally comfortable to be able to have these conversations. The next tip is, what's going to help this conversation and all conversations, I promise you, is sharing appreciation for each other. So imagine, think about something that you're so frustrated about, whether Amy, it's you for, the bedtime routine, or any of my listeners, something that that you've been doing and there's so much resentment about not getting help or how much of a struggle it's been. Imagine your spouse coming up to you and saying, God, I have noticed that when I'm coming back from work, you have been spending the day trying to get our toddler potty trained. And that is hard. And your back hurts. You're bending over all the time. You're cleaning messes. That must be so hard. I cannot imagine having to do that all day. Thank you so much. Okay. Anything like that, right? Can you just again, feel that? Imagine really being appreciated, being told in a genuine way how loving that feels, how calming it feels, how regulating that feels. So imagine if you could do this for each other, even when you're angry at each other. Okay. Because anger can coexist with love. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So you can be fully angry and still say, God, I also see, I'm angry about this, and I also see, how hard you're working at work, and that it's been really stressful. You've been, having so much pressure with your boss, and you still come home and you really still try to make space for us. And I know that's hard. I mean, anything for each other to share appreciation and compassion, with things they're doing, with things they're struggling with too. Maybe they're not showing up in a way that you wish. And there can still be some compassion for what a struggle that is for them, even though you're angry. Okay. So again, I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but it's truly so important. If you do this, that is going to change the tenor of the conversation. It's going to change the energy between you both and the approach that you're going to have. It's going to soften you guys. Okay. It's also going to help with the next recommendation, which is you need to hold both experiences. What I mean by that is, yes, you both have right to be angry about things and to be upset. But if you approach something as if you are the only one that has upset, again, it's just going to get you in a dead end place. And if both of you are planting a flag, boom, no, see my side, no, see my side, no, see my side. Again, that gets you nowhere. And so can you imagine how different that would feel for both of you if it's hey, I'm upset about this and I want you to consider, and I also want to consider what's going on for you and what's upsetting to you that you haven't been able to share with me, or what it's like for you also at the night, through Wakeups or in the day, or, because you might actually get information that you weren't aware of. And it opens you up into one another's internal worlds. The thing is, it's not a competition. Both of you are likely struggling with something, okay? Or something's hard. It doesn't mean that there doesn't need to be accountability in some way. And maybe one of the two of you does need more accountability than the other. That's possible. It's just that there's still a struggle. And when you guys can choose to say, okay, we're going to listen to each other. We're not just going to be fighting for one of us to be heard. It needs to be both. That will also change the conversation. Okay. And so when one of you actually experiences your spouse being curious, trying to understand, trying to empathize, there's usually a reciprocal generosity of spirit where you're going to want to do that back for them. Okay. And, it's the brave one who wants to do that first. Okay. So hold both. Okay. And just allow that there's going to be different experiences. Can you care for both of your experiences even when you're angry? Okay. Again, it's okay to be angry, but can you be angry and also hold compassion and express both, right? Being able to hold that complexity and share the complexity. it's going to be easier to start negotiating shifts, either dividing hours or dividing nights or agreeing on flexible arrangements where one of you is really starting to lose it. If you can tag team your partner in, it's going to be easier to navigate things like that when you're coming from a place of, oh, yeah, we're having conversations where, yeah, both of us actually feel cared about. There's curiosity. There's appreciation for both of us. Yeah, it's so much easier to be on the same side. Okay. Now, if conversations like this are hard, even when you're trying to be curious, to acknowledge and to approach with love along with your protest, or if you guys don't have the same capacity to regulate and do this mutually, it may be a sign you need more support. If you notice that actually doing these exercises gets you to a better place, that's when it's a place to start actually negotiating and looking at it. Do we want to divide nights? In this, in this question for Amy, do you want to divide nights up? Do you want to divide hours up? I take, 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. and you take 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. or whatever it is. Do you want it to be flexible tag team? Be on each other's side and navigate it. There's a million solutions. You can be flexible. And it's just going to be, that conversation is going to have so much more momentum and space when both of you have given that love to each other of seeing each other, acknowledging each other, caring about each other. Okay. If you do notice that it is, trying to go these exercises and it's just too hard. Look, you can check out my coaching offers in my link below. You can see couples counseling, because you may just need more support to build that capacity and regulation to be able to show up like that for each other, and that's okay. Subscribe to my podcast here and on YouTube for more weekly insight and support into your relationship after kids. And as always, I'm here for you and your family. Goodbye.